This is the O-Review podcast. O-Review.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 2. I'm going to go over my Oakley Mars now. This is the second pair that I still have in my collection. My actual second pair was a powder blue Minute, but it looked a little different than it in real life than it did on the website, so I ended up giving that to my sister in the end. So this is actual pair number 2 that's still left, and it is my first pair of X metals. I haven't really gotten too much into X metals. For one, they're pricier, but I find a lot of the O-Matter models and otherwise just look a little more visually appealing. But this one really stands out because most of the X metals were just metal frames, normal lenses, standard. You couldn't do a whole lot as far as colors go. But this one wrapped it in leather. Very interesting design. This came out in a few different models. There was the leather model, there was the plain black, there was a ruby model, there was an emerald model. Again, last time I talked about the Splice, there was the Sunglass Hut exclusives, which had emerald lenses. That was one of them. There was also an ice blue model, which was never released, but the lenses ended up getting out to the public somehow. So you will see some ice blue Marses around, and those are customs, but they are legit lenses. So to go into some history of the Mars, Michael Jordan was a chair member for some time, and he had a lot of input into some of the models that were produced around the late 90s or so. This was one of his X-Metal creations. The other creation that he had a hand in was the 00 wire line, which did really well, but Jim Janner didn't really feel it fit Oakley, so that got discontinued. I'll go more into those at a later point. But the Mars was a really kind of radical design. If you've ever watched the movie Fight Club or Imposter, you will see these glasses in it, and they kind of give off an edgy or sort of avant-garde vibe to them. So this pair I found on half.com many years ago, back when they didn't sold other things other than just CDs and books and the like. In addition to the leather wrap frame, it's just the regular X-Metal titanium frame around that, and gold Iridium lenses. Some people have said it's leather gold, which is actually a lens on one of the Fates, but I think they were just saying, when the whole thing was listed, it was just leather and gold Iridium. So I don't think they're leather gold Iridium. I think they're just regular gold Iridium, and that's kind of what I'm sticking to at this point. So if you take a look at the stems, these are the straight X-Metal stems, which are attached by T6 Torx screws. Unlike the Splices, which were T5, most of the early X-Metals were T6 until the Romeo 2, which had went back to the T5s. The easiest thing to do customs with these is to get some sort of Torx adapter bit. You can get these on Amazon for like $10 for the whole set, and then just use them in the traditional replaceable screwdriver. If you want to replace the lenses, that's where it really gets to be a pain. The problem with these is they aren't held together by screws like the other X-Metals. They actually just have clamps that are pressure fit. As I was doing a review, I took a look at these, and my clamps are now broken. These things will break just by sitting in the shelf. I do notice a little bit of rust on them, but basically it's a very brittle metal. It's holding a lot of pressure to hold this lens closed. And if you have the lens misaligned, then it's even more pressure to try to get it closed. I do see a lot of aftermarket replacement clips for these. You can get them for like a penny down at some hardware store. But, if you're really concerned about keeping everything stock, I wouldn't worry about having those as aftermarket replacements because there's really nothing you can do. I mean, this has probably been my third pair of Mars that have just broken sitting on the shelf, let alone when I actually try to replace the lenses. When I'm trying to prime apart and put them back together, the stress, they just fire off and never to be seen again. Another flaw in this I find is that the very tops of the back lenses tend to bubble, and I'm guessing that's just from brow sweat or something like that, but I actually had a pair of these. These are actually replacement lenses. The original pair of lenses, they were so badly bubbled that I could actually see bubbles appearing on the back of the lenses, and they flaked off at one point. They look terrible, so they're in my spare pile right now. So a lot has kind of gone into this. The leather discolors terribly. Right in the front here, it's not too bad. right around here where you grab them, you put them on and off. Just from touching them over time, the moisture just makes it like a really dark brown instead of a light tan. The problem with these is even if you have them sitting in a shelf, not much you can do. Moisture will attack it. They'll just slowly darken over time. So these are really one of the hardest things to keep in pristine condition just because they're so delicate. The other one would probably be the suede straitjacket from earlier in the 90s, which I have a pair of and is luckily not in really bad condition. But that's upstairs. I'm in the basement right now. So that's kind of just some brief things about the Mars. Again, these are the straight stems. They are hot swappable with the Romeo, the Juliet, and the X Metal 20 because they all attach with the same T6 screw. And the screw actually acts as a hinge. So the more you tighten that screw, the stiffer you can get the stems to be. One thing you can't control is the flex of the nose bridge. Inside here is actually plastic flex couplers, and those will just loosen over time. So the more you wear it, the more they stretch. You'll see a lot of people complaining that their Juliets, more often than not, because that's what most people wear, they just get really loose over time. They flop. Nothing you can do. You had to actually send them back to Oakley, and they would pull it out, punch the rivets out, re-rivet them, and that was actually called a tune-up back in the day, and it cost like I want to say $25, but I think it was actually a bit more. And they would kind of make things all tightened up and new. They'd also replace the rubber and do all that stuff like that. So I keep going back to the stems. The stems are the straight metals. They are replaceable. The first 4 X metals before the penny came out and had a spring hinge, completely different design. In addition to the straight stems, there's actually the hammer stem, which appeared on the Romeo, reappeared on the X Metal 20, and also appeared on Juliet in the polished configuration. And I'll just grab one of those quickly. Here's X Metal 20, and this is the TiO2, or the titanium dioxide as I call it. Here's an example of the hammer stem versus the straight stem. So it comes out a little bit further from your temples, not a whole lot. As far as fit goes, I don't really see a whole lot of difference. This is generally meant for larger heads as opposed to Juliet, but I don't really see a whole lot of difference. The main height difference is actually the orbitals, but I'll go over that at a later point. The gold X Metal 20s is another one of my early pairs, so I should have a review on that soon. As with most X metals, they are serialed, or they were serialed up until about 2000. I want to say 8, maybe 2006. It's whenever the brown Juliet came out. It's right around that time. It was in December. But, this was early enough. This came out in 98. And this has a serial. The serial for the Mars leather is M star and then 4 digits. This is serial number 326, so this is a fairly early one. Also, there's a hidden thing. If you take off the right nose bomb, there is a serial on that portion right there. I don't know why, but it's there for some strange reason. Nose bombs just sort of have a hook in it, so they hook around the X Metal frame and then just slide on. I believe these are also compatible with the Moon frame, which came out the same year, and it was kind of the O-Matter equivalent to the Mars. So just going to go over a recap of the X Metals. 1997 was when the Romeo came out. That's when X Metals were first designed. Mars came out in 1998. 99 had the Juliet and the X Metal 20 at different parts of the year. And then it wasn't until 2001 that the penny came out. And then it was even later that the Romeo 2 came out. So I think that's pretty much all I got to say about this model. The fit is very snug. There's no flex. The only flex is in the temples there. So I kind of... you kind of have to squint when you put it on. I call it the Oakley squint because when you put these on, these temples dig right, these fangs dig right into your temples, so you kind of have to tighten things up as they go on. Nice secure fit. They're very light, very comfortable. I wore these indoor all day one time and not a problem. The lenses are perfect. The fit's very light. Didn't have a problem at all. So really the cons are the orbital clamps, they snap, the leather discolors. The styling may be kind of out there for some people. A lot of people don't like round glasses. They like squares or rectangles or something like that. But I really love these pairs. I have 4 pair. I've got this guy, I've got a custom I'll show you a little bit later, and I have a ruby custom and an ice custom. So really nice pair. I wish I could wear these more. The prices have unfortunately gone up, so I'd like to have a pair just to wear, but probably not going to happen. You can get the craters for not too much, and that's kind of one thing that's kind of sad. My last review, I didn't get a chance to go over what I hope to achieve with these reviews, and one thing I wanted to do is just really to convey knowledge. It's nice to show off the collection, and it's a real great to have some pieces to boast about and show off what I have, but the main thing is I want to kind of just go over the history of Oakley, give a lot of information out there, and kind of let other people know more about the products and the timeline and all that. One thing I don't want to do is assign value to any of these, because I really just don't care. I mean, it's cool to have a piece that's rare. It's cool to have a piece that's valuable. But I mean, there was a time where you could get these for $50 on eBay. They were released at the sidewalk sales. People picked them up for $50. They'd release them for $50. It was great. You could go out, grab a pair, no big deal. Now the Crater Mars are like $180, and that's the lower level of them. So it's kind of depressing. And these are, I don't want to say what they're going for, but some people want, tons of money for it, and it's just not worth it, unfortunately. Especially for a pair that's going to discolor so badly and be very hard to maintain. So I'm not going to give really values to any of these. I'm not going to try to say which ones are rare. I'm not going to release any, how many were released in a run, because usually I don't know. Oftentimes, even the numbers they've given back to us are wrong. And, I just don't want to encourage the people on eBay to make more money than they already are doing. I feel like the eBay people have kind of tainted this whole collecting to a bit, because, I like to go out and, see what I can find. Everyone likes to get a good deal, but there's people out there on eBay that are just, they're on there all day, they're grabbing all the good deals, and then they're keeping them hostage. They want, $700 for a frame that's not worth, nearly that much. So it's kind of disappointing to a degree. So I don't want to encourage any of that. I really just like to, help other people collect, help other people know what they have, go over some differences over time. There's many times where a pair has, changed mid-run, and maybe the SKU stays the same. It's still considered the same model, but things are slightly tweaked to slowly improve it. A couple examples of that would be like the mag switch. There were two generations. The first one didn't have any dampers in the legs, so they would constantly hit the orbitals and scratch it up, and that became an issue. Monster Dogs turned into sort of a locking double cam switch hinge as opposed to just a free flow swing hinge. So there's a lot of times where models have changed from time to time, and I like to point out those differences. So that's pretty much it. I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. I know an over-the-top review is coming soon, and a few people have requested that. I'd like to thank everyone for the comments and subscriptions lately. I'm not going to hound everyone for subscribing every single time, because it does sort of get annoying from time to time, but I do appreciate those who have subscribed and left comments. There seems to be a fair amount of interest in the past videos, so I'd like to keep this going. I hope to have this going as maybe like a weekly edition with possibly some other smaller updates as I find things to quickly review. I'm just thankful that this one only took me one take to record. The other one took me about 8 because I kept messing up, or I felt like I was talking, going on and on and on. So it's getting a little bit easier, so I should be able to churn these out a little bit easier. So again, I'd like to thank everyone. I would also like to leave a bit of trivia at the end of every episode, because that hopefully that should generate some feedback down below, and maybe hopefully help you all learn something new about Oakley. I'm going to start off with a couple of questions that were actually asked to the co-pilots down at headquarters, and there were certain prizes associated with a lot of the questions. So if I can remember those, I'll tell you what you would have won had you been able to answer this question. So the first question that was asked to us was, the frog that was used to advertise the original frog skin back in the 80s was a red-eyed tree frog. It was someone's pet and it had a name. What is the name of that frog that was used to advertise the original frog skin? If you had guessed this correctly, you could have won an Olympic gold watch, but fortunately that's already been passed out now, so hopefully you just get some bragging rights at the end. So if you can answer that, please let me know in the comments. I will tell you the answer next time, and I will see you then. Take care.